Hello, thanks ever so much for joining me for this vlog. A little bit of a different one this time. I hadn't really planned it this way, but I'm working in my studio journal and updating it with all my notes and photographs about the paintings that I've been working on. And I thought I'd share with you how I use my journal and why I find it so useful. For any kind of creative practice, not just painting. So I hope you find it useful. And it's really invaluable to me, actually. I'm really pleased I started to do it. I don't do it with every single painting that I do, but I try to do it with the majority. And this is my second journal now, so I'm kind of thinking this might be a habit I've instilled now. I always think if I fill at least one sketchbook, I'm onto a good thing, because I'm one of them people. Don't know about you, I love buying notebooks and sketchbooks, and then I don't fill them, and then I move on to the other one with a nice shiny cover. I'm fickle, but anyway, this seems to stick. Yeah, I don't know how many times I go back to my studio journal thinking, oh, what was that colour mix, or what did I use on top of this material to get this effect, that kind of thing. The last painting I was up to was this one, which is Dress of Bracken, Heart of Sky, and this was the one, I think I talked to you not long ago about it. I was invited to submit a painting to celebrate the Heart Gallery's, I'm just going to move you, I think that light is doing my head in. It was the Heart Gallery's 18th birthday, which is amazing. It's a beautiful gallery in Hebden Bridge in Yorkshire. And they asked me to submit a painting, make a special painting for the birthday. And they did that with 18 artists. So it was like 18 artists making 18 special paintings for their birthday. If you didn't see it, I think it's the last vlog or a couple of vlogs back, I went to visit and say happy birthday, and I took them a caterpillar cake. Anyway, it was a lovely day, and then I was told by Alison that it had sold, which was amazing. So I'm really chuffed with that. But also what's nice with the studio journal is that I've got a record of that, and I like to kind of track the progress. Now, I'm not saying I am not perfect in any way, shape or form. There's many times with paintings, including one that I've got to write up today, where if I'm having a real battle, like a real battle, I'm so mardy with it and just really want to push through and not let it win, I'll often forget to take photos, but I try as much as possible just with my phone to take quick snaps. Also, what's really useful is if I do a colour mix that I like, or I think, oh, I might have to mix that again in the future, I'll lay the paint tubes out next to the colour and take a photo of that. That's invaluable for me. And I'll just show you kind of how I do it. It's very simple. I've had... these are some of the screenshots. I have the screenshots. I think they're a bit jumbled up, but anyway, the last two paintings. So this is Crow Daughter, and these are progress shots of she wears the mask of the changing seasons. And what I do is then on my iPad, I kind of just, doesn't matter which way around they go, and I try and fit as many as I can on a sheet of A3 before I get printed, and then I'm going to trim them. So you get, like, you know, you get value for money. And I just roughly do it to the size. So this book, this is an A5, and I find that a nice size to handle, personally. So I do close-ups of any, like, effects that I might want to recreate, any motifs that I'm quite pleased with, also certain techniques. If I was glazing or something like that, I would take a photograph of the tool that I use so that I would remember, because I call that's one of my magic brushes. And I know if I want really fine, like dry brush glazing, and to knock an area back and to soften it, that's one of my magic brushes. It's the best. Anyway, we'll stop talking about my magic brushes. That's what I mean about when I do a colour mix, and I can remember the make of paint and the actual paint. Sometimes when I do iPad possibilities, sometimes in the middle, sometimes I might hop on my iPad, put a few different ideas down, a few different colours. Sometimes I put the screenshots from the iPad as well, and I annotate those about why I decided one and not t'other kind of thing. That's always useful. This is really useful for me as well, I always try and make a record of the very first layers, because generally speaking, they look very different to the final image. And I often forget, like I forgot that I use this really quite bright orange to bring out this background colour, and actually I think that makes it really vibrant. Completely forgot I did that. That was a bit of a scary move. And then what I also then try and do is to have a final image, so I've got a record in my book of what it looked like at the end. But I also really like to have images before I cut in the negative shape and block out areas, because it looks so different before you decide to define different shapes. So it's just like a really useful record. So what I do then, as you've probably gathered, I'll just basically make notes. So I put the title, I like to put the month that I start. Not only do I write about the tools and the techniques that I use, but also the struggles, and that's probably for me the most important thing, the struggles, the problem solving. Might do little sketches here just to explain how I kind of worked around an issue. Or also I like to look through these later and kind of appraise them and talk about the bits that I wanted to improve, talk about the bits that I was really happy with. And that always makes you feel good at the end as well, that you can look through the journey of the painting. And also it gives me little clues about things I might want to do in the future. And sometimes, because I generally work intuitively, I don't think, right, next painting I'm going to do, you know, so and so. This is a painting called Under the Bow. But there's often breadcrumbs, and sometimes I'll look back on my sketchbook from 2-3 years ago, and I might have written a sentence or just a couple of words, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and it like opens up another path. So it's kind of like talking to myself in the future as well, because I don't know about you, when you're doing something creative, when you're in the creative process, it's like there's another voice going on in your head while you're working. It's like a meditation for me, and I've probably talked about this before. Painting, when you're in the bubble, when you're in the flow, it's like a meditation. It's like, this sounds really dramatic, so excuse me, this is really dramatic, but it's a bit like Luke Skywalker when he's flying his fighter plane. I've forgotten what it's called, the fighter spaceship thing. He doesn't even do that, so I don't know why I'm doing that. And then in his head, it's like, you know, he's got to let go, and he takes his, have I dreamt this? Does he take his hands off the wheel or the controls? Am I making it even more dramatic than it was? In my head, I think he does. He like shuts his eyes or something and takes his hands off the controls, and then feels the force and goes with the flow. If you're a big Star Wars fan, I've probably massacred that, and I might have said it all wrong. But anyway, it's like that. Those moments, and it doesn't happen that often, those moments where you feel like you're not even really painting, and I'm sure it's the same for musicians and writers. It's like you kind of go, and you're like outside yourself. Does this make sense? Oh God, I bet you're like, oh, I don't want to listen to her anymore, she's weird. Anyway, it's like you've stepped outside yourself and it's happening and you don't quite know how you're doing it. They're the precious moments that we are going for. Just like my husband, who's a surfer, he keeps going back for the wave. You just keep going back. I think that's why creatives keep going back, for that feeling when you're in the bubble, when you blink and like 4 hours have gone, and then you look at what you've done and you've gone, who's done that? I mean, that's the best feeling in the world. It's like, who's done that? I ain't done that. I don't know I've done that. That's why I was just thinking then, why am I even talking about Luke Skywalker and surfing? That's why. That's those moments when words and thoughts or even titles or stories or colours or anything come in your head, and they're like a dream. When you come out of it, they can just go poof and you've lost it. That's what the studio journal's about. It's got the little clues, and I don't capture all of them. I definitely don't capture all of them, but I try my best to capture some. Also, talking about that, oh God, I'm talking too much. Also, talking about that, something that helped me understand my way of creating, and I think, generally speaking, creatives' way of creating, is an amazing book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I've only just thought of it. I must reread it. I haven't read it for a few years. And she writes about creativity like that, as though creativity is an energy. And it really opened my eyes and changed it kind of, I could feel it change my outlook when I read that book. And it's a lovely book to read. Yeah, so I'll recommend that. I'm going to do a flick through my studio journal now as well. I might have done one before in the past, but I'll do a quick flick so you can just get an idea of what they look like. So now I've cut up the pictures, because I just try and fit as many images to save, cost on printing. I now try and put them in chronological order, which sometimes is quite interesting because I'm like, oh, okay. But actually, once you get it in order, it really kind of reminds you of the whole process and what you learned and some of the earlier stages. This was the turning point when I knew I'd got the shapes in the right place. I'd kind of picked out her face, but I could see the shadow. I could even see her kind of eye, the edge, and here, just this tiny bit, the edge of the, I don't know what that bit on your nose is called, like the nostril flap. Oh God, top quality content again. If anyone knows the actual name for the nostril flap, could you let me know, please? But anyway, you can kind of see it there, can't you? And also like the shadow under the lip, and this here and this under the chin. I mean, that was just all through spontaneous mark making. I mean, you can see there is her hat. I didn't even have to paint the edge of the hat back in. That's when you know you're following the clues and they're leading you in the right direction. So it's really nice to look back on the process. So yeah, I'm just going to spend a few minutes sorting it all out in chronological order. I've put them in a pile now from the earliest to the end of the process, and I'm literally just going to Pritt stick them in and be mindful of where I need to write the notes, okay, because I want to write in the colour mixes, and if there are areas where I've been really struggling or I found the clues, I will leave more space. Personally, I really like to use the A5 Sea Whites. I think it's called an alternate lined and plain white cartridge paper journal, and that's because, you know, I find it useful. I can put lots of notes here. I can still write on here, but I can do diagrams. I like to kind of put the bigger pictures here as well. So I just find that really, really useful and a really kind of flexible system to use. I also really like that it's got a pocket at the back, so I can put any photos that I've not stuck in yet. And you know, I'm a sucker for a elastic band closing. Yeah, by the way, this isn't an ad or anything. Unfortunately, I'm not sponsored by Sea White. You know, I'm sure there's other travel journals. So I'm just going to start and decide roughly where and which way I want my pictures, so I can start and put all the information in that I need. And actually, I really love this. You know, as a kid, I always liked to make books and keep little diaries and journals and things like that. So, you know, this actually makes me very happy, and I can definitely while a few happy hours away doing this. So yeah, I'm going to crack on now. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you found it useful. Please let me know below in the comments if you keep a studio journal, and if you do it any, you know, in any different ways, or any other tips that we could share, or if you think you might start a studio journal, because I find it fascinating, and I love keeping mine up to date. So thanks ever so much for watching. Hope you don't mind me asking, if you could do a little thumbs up, or subscribe if you haven't, if you don't mind me being so bold, and you know what you deserve. See you next time. Thanks ever so much, Chuck. Bye. And I don't know how many times I have looked back on my studio journals thinking, oh, why did I say stutter? Studio journals. Edit. Anyway,